All right, let's see what's going on here. I guess I'm clocked in. Hey, what's going on, party people? Another day. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome. It's definitely a great pleasure to have you here. I go by the name of L'Esprit. I am a spiritual healer. And essentially, what I do as a spiritual healer is that I help people to become Christ like, Buddha like, Krishna like. And what that pretty much means is that I help you to attain your highest level of consciousness. That's simply what that is. Now, for you to attain your highest level of consciousness, it's imperative that you have the best state of clarity, the highest state of clarity. That's what, being conscious of who you are and having the, becoming Christ-like, it's having the highest level of consciousness about who you are. Now, for you to do that, I help you. I mean, you can't be one-sided. You're going to have to see yourself from different angles. Meaning you would have to see yourself from an emotional perspective. You would have to see yourself from a mental perspective. And other parts that I'm not going to get into. But in a nutshell, the whole idea is you would have to become mentally and emotionally balanced. And the reason why this is important is because at this point, only when you become emotionally and mentally balanced can you be or have your highest state of consciousness. And that's the whole idea. Let's just say when you see Jesus with the long hair, those traits were feminine traits. In so many words, they're showing you a man who is it's the ideal is a perfect man, meaning a man who has embraced many aspects or all the different aspects of who he or she is. And like I always tell you guys, right? And the reason why it's important for you to become mentally and emotionally balanced, and I always use this example, let's just say someone who's being too emotional, you know exactly what's that like. If you ever seen anybody who's being too emotional, they don't see everything in front of them. They're missing out on a few things, or maybe their emotions having the best of them, so therefore they don't have the best state of clarity. Now, and the same thing also goes, let's just say, now most people would look at that situation and be like, you know what, man, it's better for me to become mentally or strong, because they think because being emotionally unbalanced make you too weak, meaning, you couldn't handle your business the way you should. So now, being mentally strong is the way to go. That's another mistake, because if you choose to do that, you'll become just like the person who's being emotionally balanced, because you are one-sided. You don't see both sides. And when you become one-sided, now you are refuting or refraining your emotions, and then now you become, let's just say, rigid. You become very robotic. And you also got to keep in mind the one thing that allows us to relate to one another is through our emotions. Like, I feel you, I understand your pain, I have compassion. But that requires for you to actually be in touch with your own emotions. So this is why, either you to be mentally unbalanced, by not, being in tune with your emotions, is pretty much the same as someone who's being, let's just say, too emotional, but yet is not using their mental to balance it out. Because what that does, let's just say, if you are a mental person, by adding some emotions into your intellect, it allows you to see things a little bit clearer. It allows you to have a little bit of compassion for others and understanding. Now you understand. I can relate. And if you're being too emotional, by adding a little bit of intellect into your emotion, now it allows you to not to be blinded by your emotions now. But either way, I want you to also make note on how we see things. Because in just a second, I'm going to talk about spirituality briefly. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But, this is revealing our state of being in so many words. That's why in a second, when I'm going to be talking about spirituality, I always tell people this is who you are. This is your essence. Because when you strip everything down, your vision, for you to have that highest state of clarity, these are the things that would have to come together for you to see things on a higher plane or on a higher level. And if you also understand that, I could take it a step further now, then that's why we call this world that we're living in an illusion. And by the way, if this is your first time watching this is going to be part 2 of taking a deeper look at the Matrix, or the world that we're living in. But most importantly, what I want to do in this part, which is part 2, is to, help you to see the role of spirituality into our life. In other words, it's to pretty much illustrate the reason why God needs men and man needs God. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But I'm also saying this, if this is your first time watching this, I didn't label it as part 1 because I didn't know I was going to have part 2. But when I got inspired to expand a little bit more on it, so this is going to be part 2. So part 1 would be the one that doesn't say part 1, but just taking a deeper look at the Matrix. And then with this one, I would say the same thing instead of part 2, and then I'll just add the role of spirituality in our life, or the role of the spirit, God's role into our lives. I'll figure it out because it's not set in stone. But that's pretty much it, and that's pretty much how I do it. I'll help you to become, Christ-like. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about being mentally and emotionally balanced? To be emotionally balanced, what's that referring to? It's simply you being in tune and in touch with your emotions. It's you understanding why you feel a certain way. Because most people who are being triggered, they don't understand, they don't know why. For the most part, that is the reason why they're being triggered. And once you're being triggered now, it's almost like you don't know what the fuck happened. You don't have the ability to explain why you're doing that. And that's why you will see sometimes you will see people who are being triggered, they have no idea why they're triggered, but they'll let you know not to go there, or you would see their ego protecting them. And when you see the ego protecting them, like I always tell people, your ego, what you see is the ego, but it's not because of the ego. Because what the ego does for you is that it helps you, it protects you. That's the main point of the ego. The ego protects you. Meaning, if you're smart, it can only go as far as you go. Because we all have an ego, right? But for me, because of the nature of understanding, or the level of understanding that I have, my ego protects me a different way. My ego now, because I'm not living for the Joneses. I don't care about, I live for myself. In other words, I suck my own dick. So my ego's is not going to react, let's just say, when somebody has something, or somebody's showing me that you have a nice car. Well, congratulations. Get another one. You know what I'm saying? What the fuck that has to do with me? What you eat don't make me shit. So when you understand that, your ego behaves differently. So that's why I always tell people, your ego is not the issue. It's you that is the issue. The ego, the only thing that your ego is doing is protecting you. So when you see people that are being triggered, and then what you see, yes, it is the ego reacting a certain way, but it's not because of the ego, because the shallow you are, you're gonna act that way. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Just like they say, empty barrel makes the most noises. Well, that's exactly what that is. Because we all have an ego, but the ego reacts based on your level of understanding, based on the type of knowledge that you go by. If you're someone, let's just say, you go by self-worth instead of self-esteem, Meaning self-worth, you identify yourself with what you have. So of course, if you have little, you would not want people to know about it because it would do something to your identity. So therefore your ego would step in to protect you. And this is where, you know what I'm saying, niggas be like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. You're like, nigga, you broke. Like, I don't know. Like, it ain't me. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of foolishness you always see, you know, like you could plainly see it, but yet the motherfucker's like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, that's their ego protecting them based on the knowledge that they have of self. But anyway, I'm not gonna spend too much time on that, but I figured, you know, I was right there. Why not? Why not mentioning that? So, you know, for you to become, and by the way, you know, it's important for you to be emotionally balanced because, you know, people who are not emotionally balanced, you know, that is, like I always say, that is the foundation of toxicity. People who are toxic, they don't acknowledge their fucking emotions. They don't understand how they feel. You know, that's why, you know, they would try to refrain their feelings. Or some motherfuckers just remove their feelings altogether. And that's when they become very cold, no connection with other people, and, you know, you become robotic, like evil too. Again, that is the foundation of toxicity. So, to be emotionally balanced, you have to be in tune and in touch with your emotions. Meaning you understand how you feel, you understand your emotional pattern. If you're reacting a certain way, then now you have the ability, you're not going to be triggered. It's not going to come out of nowhere because now you have acknowledged it. So it gives you or puts you in a better position to actually have better control over yourself and your emotions. Then now you have the ability to transmute it, to change it, you know, to your liking or not to react a certain way. So that's what it means to be emotionally balanced. Now, to be mentally balanced is the same, pretty much baseline understanding, right? So now you have to understand how your mind works. How are you being conditioned to think? Like I always tell you guys, your culture plays a big part in how you think. You know, there's a reason why you are a fucking American or such and such, whatever the fuck nationality you are. I mean, your culture shapes you. The school that you go to, you know, your social whatever class or wherever the fuck you come from, all of that shit is conditioning you to think a certain way. So you have to become aware of that. And by you becoming aware of that, now you are not in a box. The minute you are being put in a box, you being that box-sided or that one-sided. So therefore, you're never going to see the big picture. Because to see the big picture, to attain your highest level of consciousness, you can see things or life from one perspective. You got to see it from all perspective. And that's what having a deeper understanding of what's around you, it's all about. So that's why it's important for you to become mentally and emotionally balanced. And when you have those two together, now you could see things on a higher perspective. Another example that I always, you know, tell people, I don't know if you guys remember or if you know, by the way, there was a scene in the Bible where there was a prostitute that, you know, they brought to Jesus. You know, she was caught in the middle of the day. You know, she was married, prostituting, whatever the fuck, right? So according to the law, which is the mental, what we're supposed to do, you know, she was supposed to be stoned. But now Jesus was able to add a little bit of emotion into these motherfuckers by saying, which one of you motherfuckers, because that's what emotions, now it allows you to reflect on you, have never sinned. And if you have, then you would cut her some slacks. That's pretty much what that shit was. By adding a little bit of emotion, it allowed them to see things from a deeper perspective. And that's when now none of them were able to stone that person. They were like, oh, okay. Because it's like I see now. So that's the whole purpose of you becoming mentally and emotionally balanced. And that's how you become the Christ or Krishna, Buddha. Buddha means to wake up. You have awakened to a higher perspective. That's pretty much what it is. But anyway, now that we got this out of the way, now as part of my process, if you're coming back, well, baby, you already know, right? So I always take a minute, and talk about spirituality for just a second. Only because, not only because, everything that I'm going to be sharing with you is out of, it's spiritual based. It's out of spirituality. So, what is spirituality? What do we mean by spirituality? Spirituality, the best way for me to actually summarize it, it's your regular life. Not just my life, his life, or her life. It's everybody's life. Now, a lot of us, unfortunately, we can't really relate to that because we were conditioned to look at ourselves only from a physical perspective. And this is also what I'm going to be talking about. And I guess I'm going to summarize, the Matrix a little bit. And I feel like I didn't really, I did talk on that and even more. So you definitely going to have to check that out, right? But the part that I want to emphasize here is that, we're living in a society, pretty much the essence of what I was talking about yesterday is that it's external based. We are only one-sided, meaning you only get to know yourself from a physical perspective. And because of that, now when we're talking about spirit or a certain, even like people even we even call our dream crazy. It's like we selected the physical aspect of us, which is the waking consciousness, because you breathing and walking around, and because we're not in touch with that other side of us. And this is the reason why, the minute you're not in touch with that, you'll never become Christ-like. But anyway, that's another conversation. Well, it's also part of this conversation, but let's get back to spirituality now. So a lot of us have a misconception in terms of you don't really see it with you. You don't see how it applies into your life because you've been conditioned to look at yourself only from a physical perspective. Like your life consists of, having this idea of how you're supposed to do it, be part of society. You've been conditioned to think in these terms. So therefore, when spirituality comes up, you always look at it from that's something outside of you. That's them over there. That's somewhere else. Like it has nothing to do with you because you've never seen, that other side of you. Meanwhile, the people you so-called that are becoming spiritual, I don't think there's a difference between you and me besides me acknowledging that other side of me. Do you see what I'm saying? So that is one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to spirituality. Another one is that most people think when you're talking about spirituality is fucking religion. Far from it. Everything, spirituality embodies everything. So therefore, even that misunderstanding that you have when it comes to spirituality is still spirituality. In fact, I'm able to explain that to you, based on spirituality, because spirituality pretty much it's giving you a deeper understanding on how you work, how you function. And the reason why I was able to break it down for you and not being in tune or in touch with your spirit, the spirit side of yourself, is because you don't identify with that side of you. So therefore, you're living in a world where pretty much, it's self-esteem isn't really praised. It's what you wear, what kind of car you driving, all of that shit. That's what I always tell you guys. You're the one worshiping idols without even you knowing. And what you see with people who goes to church now, they're using God to get those using God as a form, but really, You know what I'm saying? When you go to religion, really, it's motherfuckers who's fighting, trying to get you to get a job. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, there's a lot wrong with it. But I guess what I'm saying is, when that's the only thing you see, you don't see the full picture. But then again, religion is more like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you can't, like it's almost like, it's, you don't want to have any if you have any type of illness, that is an issue. Pretty much you're fighting for the good shit in this life. Whereas when you start getting into spirituality now, spirituality is, in fact, I'm able to explain that to you because I have a deeper understanding of how we work. And because of that, I'm not confined. When I look at religion, I could see it for what it is. Another thing that we also say too in spirituality, just so you understand, hopefully this will help me or help you to bring everything home in terms of, fully understand what spirituality is. Now, in spirituality, we would tell you, you act like you're God. And what that means is, and I'll always use Christianity as an example, or even Buddha, or there's no other religion that their books or their whatever that they choose to go by that tells them your God is the only God. So therefore, because their God has never told them that, guess what they do? They accept everybody else. But because now your God now is telling you, okay, if you're a Christian, it's the only one God. So therefore, you never accepted them. And then because of that too, and then the Bible also tell you this is the ultimate book, this is the ultimate truth. Guess what you do? That's what you go by. That's what you go by. And all of that shit, you doing that shit, some people do it consciously, but for the most part, you're doing all that shit subconsciously. So spirituality, again, it's telling you the story of you in the flesh. So now on the flip side of spirituality, just like every religion has their books, their point of references, what I call those sacred texts, then now you delve into what I call the occult, which is a little bit different from the Bible. Or the esoteric knowledge. The esoteric knowledge now, those are the knowledge that you cannot take for face value, meaning there is more to it than what you see. That's why if you're learning about spirituality for the first time, or depending what books that you're reading, some of the things that they would help you to understand is that you have a subconscious mind. The idea of a subconscious mind, they tell you, you don't feel it. You don't know it's there, but it's under. That's why they call it subconscious mind. In other words, they're helping you to become conscious of what you don't see. So in other words, the occult now, you're dealing with the non-physical aspect of yourself. That's why we talk about shadow work. Again, these are things that you do not see, the non-physical aspect of yourself. And now by helping you to become conscious of that, so what they're doing now, out of the darkness comes the light, that deeper understanding of you. So let's just say when you see someone who's being triggered, that's because that dark side of them, they have not acknowledged it. And that's what you do, let's just say, when you go see a shrink or a psychologist, whatever the fuck, that's helping you now to identify some of those things and how they play or how they play a big part in your life, how they influence you. So in so many words, they're trying to help you to see the things that you don't see. It's truly the things that is ruling you. And these are the things that, when Well, when I'm calling the matrix, they don't teach you these things. So in so many words, when we talk about spirituality, and just so you know too, so a lot of the knowledge that I'm going to be sharing with you guys here, it's esoteric knowledge pretty much, or it's out of spirituality, however the fuck you want to label it, tomatoes. Ultimately, it's having a deeper understanding of you. And that's the type of sight. And as a spiritual healer, this is what I help you with. I give you that sight, that deeper understanding of yourself, so then at this point for you to see yourself from a deeper perspective. And the minute that you do, you cannot unsee it. And that's when, knowing the truth, you can't unsee it. Or if you resonate with it, whatever the fuck, you get the point. So now going back to, I was talking about a deeper look at the matrix, right? So I'm going to summarize this for you real quick, if you're watching this part now. So pretty much yesterday, the matrix, I talked about it was a whole fucking hour. So I'm strongly going to recommend that you check it out. But, this is going to be just a summary because I want to get into why is spirituality vital and why we need, not even spirituality because you're already spiritual, but why you need to acknowledge that and the role that it does in your life. Because these are practical matter. I'm not talking to you from, and let me say this too. I hope I'm not making this a logical shit neither. Like the whole Scientology shit, and even the way that people's been looking at Buddhism. A lot of people, they trying to take out the mystery out of it to make it a logical shit. No. The mystery, you can't remove the mystery out of you because you are mystery, baby. You are magical. But anyway, I'm gonna get into that, but I just want to make sure for you to be careful. I'm not trying to turn this into a logical shit, although I'm making it to a point where, I'm making it logic enough so you could get to the point where it's no longer logic. Does that make sense? Anyway, you'll get it later. You'll get it later, because that's the point. But also what I'm also saying here too, if I'm referring to this as being your life, because all of those so-called paranormal activities, they are taking place in our lives. So you can't remove all your dream, you're traveling, you don't know what happens. And that's where there's a guy called Carl Jung, like the big thing that he did. Oh my God. It's funny. And let me just say this real quick, because a lot of us always think like we are smarter than, let's just say, what you so-called the ancient. How, motherfuckers? Carl Jung was the only motherfucker who had the ability to, he didn't bring anything new. He was trying to help you to understand what the ancient knew. But anyway, that was random. That was side note. But, it's just crazy, when I hear certain things. But again, it's ignorance. So I get it. And also, I was talking about this world. Now, because this world is based, or the matrix, or society, the world that we're living in, we only acknowledge the external, the physical aspect of ourselves. And because of that, we automatically become one-sided. And you can see it. That's why when people talk about spirituality, oh my God, it's like I'm talking out of my ass, or whoa, like, meanwhile, it's your fucking life. I have the same abilities that I have, you have them too. Or Gandhi, whoever the fuck, do you think there were some other type of human being? They were, because they activated that spiritual side of them, but that's the only reason. Do you see what I'm saying? Not because, let's just say, Gandhi had 2 dicks or Jesus had 5 dicks. Like, it was, that was never the freaking issue. Do you see what I'm saying? It was just a matter of you having a deeper understanding of you, embracing that other aspect of yourself, which is your spirit. And when you get to break it down to see how we just like, okay, in fact, let's go back to, someone who's being too emotional. Whereas here I am next to you and you next to me, but yet your inner vision is somehow limited because of your emotions. Do you see what I'm saying? This is revealing how you see things in life. And even you and I, we could be sharing the same space and time, but my understanding of life is going to be different from you. And all of that is going to, like, I got two eyes, you got two eyes too, motherfucker. But yet, my inner vision is what makes me see it the way I see it. And a lack of inner vision in your case, or a higher inner vision, it doesn't matter, will make you see it the way you see it. So, again, and even the reality that we're even looking at too. So again, that's why we call this world the Matrix. It's an illusion. A bitch with a fat ass doesn't make her a good mother. Or a good person for that matter. Yeah, she look good, but there's more. And that's the basic understanding of what the illusion is. There is more to what people look like. For instance, for you to get to know me, you're gonna have to pass what I look like. You have to bypass it. And vice versa. For me to get to know you too, I gotta know your character. What do you stand for? What do you represent? But yet, I'm looking at you from a physical perspective. I could see your ID and everything, but yet there's more to you than what you look like. So again, this is our very essence. And this is why you're living in a fucking illusion. And now, so already, if you understand that already, then you could see how important God is into our life. That's why we need God. Because now when you're dealing with God, you're dealing with that spiritual aspect of yourself. That's truly what you're dealing with. That's why in the Bible they will tell you the fruit of the Spirit is joy, compassion. Because now when you were dealing with your flesh, meaning when you hear people saying they're struggling in sin or they're living a sinful life, because if that's the only thing you know, well, you're going to struggle in it. There's no way you're going to bypass that until you're being born again. Now, being born again now, being born twice, or being born of the Spirit, it could be said so many different ways. Now you bypass the flesh. Now you have joy, compassion. Now, even though there's a bitch with a fat ass, my dick gets hard. Now I could be like, okay, dick, slow down. What are you about? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not a struggle. When you become spiritual, you deal with all aspects of yourself. That's how you become balanced. And that's why it's meant in the Bible when they tell you now when you're living by the Spirit, you automatically bypass the flesh. Not that you wouldn't feel a certain way, not that just like I was telling you, seeing that fat ass, my dick get hard. Shit, well, my dick don't even get hard anymore for that kind of bullshit. But I'm just saying, it's like you have a deeper understanding now that it's no struggle, but you know there's more to it. That's why, man, you know how many pussy I just let pass by, like, hi, bye. Thank you. No, but I was only able to do that not because of God. And what I'm saying by that is because I have been in tune with a higher side of me that does not that question the fucking illusion. It makes me question it. For instance, like I tell you, like a fat ass is not gonna raise your kid. So now, what's more important to you? You let me know. You let me know. And then now we have popped the balloon. Like, it's like the Matrix. That's why it's fucking illusion on top of illusion. Now we have a show, Pop the Balloon. Now you're choosing somebody based on what they look like. So it's illusion on top of illusion. Now, granted, let me just say this, and I'm going to summarize it there. You know, yes, your appearance could say a lot about you. Yes, it can. But however, you know, there's more. Do not judge a book by its cover. So although you may be able to learn a few things about people, that's what they're telling you. You want to look confident, put your hands like this, put your hands like that. All that shit sound good. All of it sounds good. And there was a movie, Mindhunters, by LL Cool J. He was a motherfucking FBI agent. Oh, that's one of my favorite movies. Unfortunately, not a lot of people know about it, but you know that subject was treated or was talked about in that movie. Whereas they're telling you, yeah, you may be able to see certain things about me, but this is also telling me about you. So in so many words, you want to be careful not to project yourself, but to really get to know somebody for who they are. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, oh, I'm feeling hot. It's too much. All right, you know what I'm saying? So now, just to summarize, when we talk about the matrix in itself, it's what makes it an illusion is everything I just talked about, right? So now you have a society that is built on that. That's why the self is never acknowledged. It's always that image of what you should be like, and that's why everybody now becomes average. You know, this is how you dress, this is how you do this is how you do that, but never really your true essence. And there's a chain of event that comes with it when you think a certain way. Just like the fruit of the spirit is joy, compassion, and all that shit. Well, the fruit of the flesh, you know, that's why I was saying everything that's taking place in our society, it's not, you may call it evil, but it's normal. This is what I'm trying to say by being normal. It's, what's the word that I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's predetermined. That is the reason why we live in this world like that. I mean, people are killing other people. Guess what? Because of jealousy, envy. I mean, all these things gonna come from that shit because you're living based on a fucking illusion. Because of self-identity now, people who identify themselves with the material now, you know, they have the urge to pretty much, you know what I'm saying, like the way they look at life, it's either you have it or you don't have it. They don't know what hard work is. That's where your haters comes in. That's where, you know, because now if I know you, I'm not gonna let you look better than me. Or if those people look better than, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of that shit came out of that shit. And that's what it means when we talk about the fruit of the flesh. If you live by the flesh, well, guess what? That's what you're gonna do. If you don't see a bitch pass her ass, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna choose the bitch with the finest, with the biggest ass. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You see what I'm saying? But if you see it from a different perspective, guess what? I mean, your choice now, you may end up with a bitch that got a fat ass, but that wasn't the determining factor for you. In other words, it's pretty much the idea of you knowing better, doing better. But the point that I'm trying to make here, I'm trying to get you to see, like, when you being one-sided, when you only act from the external, there's a chain of behavior that comes with that. Now, this is why God is important in your life now, because God now help you to elevate beyond the physical, or the spirit help you to see things from a different perspective. And because of our essence, which is all spirit, I mean, whether we acknowledge it or not, that's why, like, another way for all of us to come together, we come together through God. Another way for you to look at this, like, through ethics. With ethics, we can relate to one another. Like, because of ethics, I'll give you a perfect example. would you go to a restaurant that's stealing your money? Do you see what I'm saying? And even the people who are stealing your money, they want to appear friendly to you. They want to appear like, that's why a lot of businesses, they understand, they need to maintain their integrity, because if there's no integrity, there's no service, no one is going to go there. Again, we're talking about the non-physical aspect of us. So when I tell people I know how important God is, like when you deal with your spirit, that's when you have integrity. You don't gossip about other people. Like, I'm not envy of motherfuckers. I don't give a fuck what you have, what you do, whose dick you suck in. Like, that's none of my business. And also, too, once you get to know a little bit more about yourself, you wouldn't just be sucking dick. Then you would acknowledge there's a greater side of you. And that's what God's help you with. That's why you need God, because God help you to elevate. When you're following your plan, when you're following yourself, when you have a talent, you're following that. You delving more into yourself. You keep becoming and becoming. You're following the path, and the path will unfold itself. You not knowing where the fuck you're going to end up. And you keep on going. That's what, in fact, when I was talking about in my first video, talking about the Matrix, and I talked about Tyler Perry, when somebody asked him, what is the key to your success? And he responded, it was God. Absolutely correct. But now, unfortunately, it may sound a little bit religious, meaning, there's a man behind somewhere. That's why I always get you to see, no, motherfucker, he's a hardworking motherfucker. He didn't give up on himself. When nobody believed in him, he believed in himself, and he kept going. He was doing his own thing. Not knowing where he was going to end up, not knowing how things are going to play out. I mean, this is God. This is the non-physical aspect of you. This is part of those divine qualities that you got to allow, you got to be, you got to be in tune with, you got to be guided by. This is now, at this point, you become the seer, the man, the blind man reading the scripture. When your intuition is guiding you, now you're no longer looking at, what's in front of you. I mean, this is what this whole thing is all about. So if I were to tell you about my story, like I was illegally kidnapped, I was technically a sacrifice. And I'm the one that got away. If you ask me now, yeah, and the motherfucker's God. But that doesn't take away anything from, the things. But the God aspect that I'm trying to get you to see, it's not just a religious shit. I was listening to Tyrese, right? Tyrese was saying some shit, which I know what he was talking about. But I just didn't get the feeling that he was saying it the way that I understood it. Because when he was saying, the establishment, a lot of places that you go to, they don't talk about God, they don't do this. I'm like, that is true, but are you referring to a religious God? So it kind of like gave me the vibe more of a religious God. Whereas when I'm telling you here, it's another aspect of yourself. And of course, there's spirit too and all that shit. And again, this is the world that we're living in. It's a fucking illusion. There's a lot more. Where do you think electricity comes from? It's all around us. So when you only look at this life only from an external perspective, you're looking at it from a one-sided perspective, meaning you will never become the Christ. Because to fully be the Christ, or to wake up, you need to get in tune with that other side of you, which is that spiritual part of you. And then now, that's what we call being born again now. And I'm trying to get you to see how, ethics, You need ethics. Look around you. Like, here's something else that I also want to touch too, man. Like, this is going to be on a side note, right? Because, a lot of you fuckers, like, when you talk about the Illuminati and all that shit, like, let's just say hypothetically, if Puff Daddy was part of Illuminati, of course, obviously he's not. I mean, I don't know, but let's just say he was, right? Now, what would be illuminated? In fact, man, let me talk about this. What would be illuminated about, let's just say, him looking to fuck motherfuckers because he knows what you want. He knows what you're dying for. And he's using that against you. But now my thing to you is, well, I mean, I'm not sure if obviously you may say he's not part of Illuminati, but the point of what I'm trying to make here is, what would be illuminated about what the fuck he's doing? The term Illuminati, it's me. I'm the true fucking Illuminati. Meaning I am fully illuminated. I have the ability to understand and see my life from a physical perspective and a spiritual perspective. In other words, I understand that I am the salt, the light of the world. The shit that I'm telling you now is fucking light that I'm emitting into your motherfucking ass. But if you're using the term Illuminati, let's just say for people who are killing other people doing dumb shit, what you're doing is you giving them your energy. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, man. Anyway, that was side note. I mean, it was just dumb. But anyway. So what I'm trying to get you to see, he was right, going back to Tyrus now. There's no God in everything. When you look at the music industry, right? A lot of you motherfuckers always talk about the satanic shit that they're doing, and all that. But what you fail to realize is, let's just say, when you look at, let's just say, Earth, Wind, and Fire, when you look at the fucking, what's my man name? That's my nigga too, man. Guys like Prince, Michael Jackson, and all that shit. You could see the music was different because of the art. You could see life. You could see the ethics. You could see how there's more harmony. And that type of music, when you play it around in society, everybody feels good. Dance, come on. You know what I'm saying? Get down on it. It's fun. It's all of these things. Joy is part of the spirit. So when you're removing that, you're replacing that by gangster rap now and all that other type of bullshit that we have nowadays. The ethics part, there's no God in it. Don't be stuck in the fucking Sexy Red dressing like fucking Lucifer and all that shit. None of that shit means nothing. Now, if you're just looking at it from a religious perspective, if that's the way you're looking at it, which is a very close-minded perspective. Because whatever the fuck you call Lucifer, first of all, wasn't it like angel of light? Isn't that what Lucifer means? I mean, there's a lot more to that. Those are esoteric knowledge. Like you lose your mind when you see a wolf or a motherfucking goat. All that shit, there's nothing bad about it. It means something. You need to understand what it means. Like a goat, like for me, it means like it can't be tamed, but you can tame a fucking sheep. So for you, when you find your own light, you will not be tamed, but by the light itself. But not by other people's influence, not by other bullshit that wouldn't help you to elevate. So I'm trying to get you to see it from a other perspective. So even though people are saying all those satanic shit, but they're saying it from a fucking religious perspective. And replacing that shit by God, I mean, if that was the case, when you go to church, these motherfuckers, they don't use these things. Church is as fucked up as Sexy Red, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I mean, pastors are, come on, man. It's bullshit. But you need God in your life because we all connect through God. Just like through ethics. When someone is doing the right thing, you want to go somewhere where you would feel safe. Not where people are cheating you. These are all divine qualities that we need. That's what helped this world to balance. That's why when you become spiritual, like most people don't understand, you become a better human being. Not a person that's out of this world. No, you become a better human being. Just like Jesus didn't separate himself from what you call the sinners. He drinks. He did all of that. All of that was symbolic. But also trying to get you to see, like, it's not, when you be spiritual doesn't mean you being exclusive. Now at the same time, you kind of have to, create your boundaries because, hey, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line was, you become a better person. Because with joy, compassion, I can understand you better. That's why I wouldn't judge you. I understand. So this is why, that's why I tell people, you can't tell me about God. Like, God is God over everything to me. Because here's the thing, guys. Any type of knowledge has to be applicable into your life. If it's just knowledge, that's why affirmation, I always tell people, you need to activate yourself. Then now you use the fucking affirmation. Until then, you're just talking. But when you get activated, now your words become powerful. Like for me, as I activated myself, now I know what to say about me. Now I can tell you that I've always, I may play dumb, but I've never been a fool. I am as wise as a serpent, as a wolf, as cunning as a fox, as bold as a lion, and having the state of mind of a dove. These are things that I stand on because I have activated that in me. So when I say it, I know what I'm saying. I'm not saying this to sound cute. I stand on these. So your affirmation, anyway, I don't want to delve too much into that, but it's all related. I'm trying to get you to see the purpose of having God in your life. It should manifest into your life. Isn't that the reason why Jesus is telling you to forgive, or let's just love one another? But now the difference is you need to tap into that. You got to do it from the Spirit. You got to be born again. That's what he was saying. That's why it's harder for a rich man, not just a rich man. What that was saying pretty much, it's harder for a motherfucker who lives in his life based on material shit. When you confine, you only see your life from a physical perspective, it's going to be tough for you now to enter that kingdom of God. Because you're going to need to be born again. But this time of the Spirit, meaning now you start looking at yourself from a different perspective. That's what turning the other cheek is. Now you understand, like me coming in this park here, recharging myself, my being. Meditation now, that's helping me to become more receptive. And I'm also getting downloads. I'm getting more aha moment in those quiet times, in isolation, in solitude. Then that's when you talk to God. These are practical shit. But you can't do none of that shit if you don't choose you. Not a fucking image on how you should live your life. You should choose you. Then these things comes with it. Then when you choose you now, you choose your talent, now you know who you are, you know how useful you are. And then that's how you find your treasure. Again, these are practical matter, these are practical shit. But for you to apply it into your life, you have to understand the role what God does into your life, or what God does into our lives. And again, using the ethics that I was telling you, you doing the right thing, all of these shit, are just divine qualities. And as you tap into your spirit, now you would do this shit automatically. And this is how now you have a better handle on your physical aspect. Now you can control your urges. Now my dick could be hard. I'm like, it's okay, baby. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Musa. You know what I'm saying? Relax. That's what this is. And this is how you've really become what is called the perfect man, not because you're being flawless. To be flawless, it's some imaginary shit that you motherfuckers comes with because you don't understand your own reality. I mean, no one should be afraid of making mistakes. But you afraid of making mistakes because of what? Because of other people. Because it reveals you. And you've been trained to hide your true self. Because when you make a mistake, oh my God, how did I make a mistake? Like, what's such a big deal about fucking making mistakes? In fact, how do you learn? And Christopher Nolan in Batman has this line that I fell in love with. Why do we fall? So you could get up. But you can't, you know what I'm saying? See, this is why you have to be born again. Now you understand, oh no, it's not about being flawless. And you need the flaws. That's how you build. You sharpen up yourself. That's how you sharpen up your tools. And that's what, you know what I'm saying, Kobe Bryant and this guy like Jordan was telling you, you know what I'm saying, practice. You got to be devoted to yourself. That dedication, you got to have it for self. So you could successfully sharpen up yourself and master the men within. Do you understand what I'm saying? So again, you need God, man. God over everything, nigga. You know what I'm saying? God over everything. And as you do so now, you are building your inner strength. Now, who gives a fuck I made a mistake or whatever the fuck? Or who cares, man? Well, you go ahead and throw the first stone, motherfucker. Throw the first stone then. And Les Brown says it best. He said, you going to fail through success. Because he's trying to get you to switch your state of mind to understand, like, nigga, that's how it works here. So that's why when I'm talking about perfection, it's becoming the holy man. I'm talking about from a holistic perspective. Meaning from a perspective that you can see it from different angles. From your masculinity, from your femininity, from your emotional perspective, and from your mental perspective. From a spiritual perspective as well as a physical perspective. And when you have that state of clarity, now you're able to bypass your fucking, the flesh. You don't bypass the flesh by refuting or suppressing the flesh. You don't. You don't. In fact, when you acknowledge the spirit in you, it allows you to acknowledge your flaws, man. You need that. Use your flaws. Those are your strengths. If you know how to use it correctly. Again, those are practical shit. Now it really comes down to this. Your lack of inner vision versus someone who has that inner vision. That's truly what it comes down to. And now a lot of you guys are lacking that inner vision because you're being conditioned by your environment. Because you don't have God in your life. And others may claim to have it or claim to talk about it, but yet they don't know how that applies into their lives. In other words, you're not activated. Only through your activation or being born again, truly, fully being born again, you start to acknowledge. And then now, guess what? Then, man, you'll get to see your power. You'll get to see so much about you. You won't even believe. But anyway, I guess, this is the part that I wanted to touch on. And, I guess, this is part 2. I wanted to show you, from an external perspective, from the society that you're living in. That's why the society and everything that's taking place it's actually normal. I mean, not normal, it's actually not a coincidence. It's supposed to happen this way, because if you live by the flesh, what do you think is going to happen? You see what I'm saying? A lot of those crimes that are taking place, a lot of people who are, let's just say, being judgmental, why do you think these things are taking place? That's because you're living by the flesh. But once you change your state of mind, you start looking at it from a spirit perspective. So meaning that's what allows you now to have a better connection with others. And I'm trying to get you to see it even in our lives. When you look at the music, that's what really making it, that's where there's a lack of God, truly. Not because of those music videos and, he's wearing none of that shit or whatever the fuck you guys be talking about. It goes beyond that. It's that goodness. I mean, it has to be applicable into your life. And what you're truly seeing slowly but surely, and this is what I always tell people too. Now, if I were to go back to, when we claim to be smarter than the ancient people, and in one of my examples yesterday, I talked about even myself. At the age of 43, well, I'm not sure if that's what it is, because all my documentation is all bullshit. I don't have the real one yet, I should say. But, it's going to work itself out. But I'm saying that to say, right? I could tell you 20 years ago, like, we were much better in terms of you were using your memory a lot more. And now you have AI. I mean, it might be convenient, but, but you becoming, just like the Matrix says it, you're being reduced to a fucking battery. You're being reduced to nothing. But how good are you? And here's something else too. Like, I know for me, I'm glad Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan. And because of his gift, he was able to share that with others. Made basketball so fucking passionate. Mike Tyson, all these motherfuckers, right? So that's why you have to use your skill. And the great teachers too. Guys like Jesus, Mohammed, whoever the fuck. Gandhi, whoever the fuck, myself, and other great teachers too, who are bringing that type of light, to help us to see things from a greater perspective. Sharing this, it's come on, man. You think I would be able to be here if I didn't choose myself? What would I have to talk about besides the things that other people are talking about? Then I would be repeating shit. There's nothing wrong with repeating shit, but you got to repeat it understandably. Meaning I could use a paraphrase some shit, but I'll say it my way. But anyway, it's getting dark in the park, man. Let me get the fuck out of here. Going back to, just to summarize, pretty much, we need God. This is the role that God plays in our life. When you understand having God or being spiritual, it makes you a better human. We all can eat, man. I could share with you, my brother. But when you're not in that spirit, you're going by the flesh, guess what? You need everything for you. You got, you know what I'm saying? Like, you let me eat after, you know what I'm saying, your crumbs. And that's what you see. Motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying, they just giving you crumbs, man. And now you motherfuckers are fighting for crumbs. Yo, bitches are fighting for crumbs, man. Get the fuck out of here with this bullshit, man. With your crumbs ass motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're fighting for? And not to mention, again, that's why this life, people are not really happy. How can you be happy? Because it's a fucking illusion. The minute you think having a car was gonna make you the shit, that not only there's another model that actually comes out, but even yourself, after you have it means nothing. After you have it, motherfucker, it means absolutely nothing, bitch. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let me get out of here, man. It's getting late, But then again, listen, man, you need God in your life, man. It helps you to realign. That's how you do that realignment. That realignment where now you adjust yourself, you become in tune with the universe itself. And you find your true treasure, your true happiness, man. You ain't got to suck nobody's dick, man. You don't have to get no crumbs, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? With self and God, nigga, you good. And you truly, really good. And yes, and again, the key thing here is not for you not to have money or to have money, or regardless of what the fuck it is, is that, money, like, nigga, like, 50 Cent says it to you. Well, listen to the people who has money. What did they tell you? 50 Cent told you, man, you know what? I thought money was going to bring, happiness for me, you know what I'm saying, all that shit. But there's certain things that it comes with as well. Tyler Perry telling you the same shit. Fuck his family members. Crab in the barrel. Meanwhile, this motherfucker was working hard. None of them, they probably didn't even support the motherfucker. But now they feel entitled. There's a stupid motherfucker, like, I don't even know the bitch. The bitch said she feels entitled to me. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? As if, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like the shit that I'm doing now. Meanwhile, granted, I've been reading books. I've developed myself. I've been very practical in my self-development. This bitch is only sucking dick and doing all that shit. And then how? Like, it's almost like the only thing this bitch almost didn't, it's almost like, okay, let me see. You help me to understand this? You know what I'm saying? Well, if that's the case, have your own channel. You wouldn't have to steal my shit then. Why are you stealing my shit if you're that bright? Or if it was because of you that I become who I am. Like, do you see what I'm saying? And we're talking about motherfuckers that don't even know me at all. Nor do I know the bitch. Or any motherfuckers who are entitled or feel entitled to you. It's always like that. They are blinded too. And that's why a lot of these haters, man, like I always tell people, like, I know it, they psychopath, man. They psychopath. And somehow they feel like, like what? Like, did you give me a book recommendation? Did you help me? Did you explain a paragraph to me that I didn't understand? Did you share some wisdom with me? It's crazy, man. Well, when you talk about crazy, that's crazy. That's what crazy is. A motherfucker who don't even know you, who feels entitled to you. If that's not crazy, shit. But then again, that's why I always call this world too, man. It's a mental illness. It's all around us. And having God in your life help you to find your sanity. Because now when you find yourself, you find God, guess what? You're not projecting yourself onto other people. They all swore that they know who I was. Okay. How about now? Take a look again, motherfucker. Take a look again. Tell me how much you know me. Tell me. I'm listening. And all they can do is to project themselves to me. Like the shit that they do, they suck dicks, then they're going to say I suck dick too. Of course, that's what you know. You know what I'm saying? Of course, yeah, of course. You know what I'm saying? While I was in college doing all my shit, bro, you know what I'm saying? This bitch said, I got everything else except I just didn't go to college. Like what, bitch? Stealing, killing people? Like what? Anyway, man, it's just the level of insanity is crazy. And here's another reason why you need God in your life too. Because only through God you find sanity, bro. You're not projecting yourself onto other people. You're following yourself. But anyway, I'm going to leave it here, man. Guys, always remember, man, the remedy, the remedy of the pain is in the pain. Always go within so you never go without. And if you do anything for money, and if you think money's everything, well, you're going to do everything for money, man. And last but not least, man, always stay true to you so you'll never be false to somebody else. A whole 9. Haïtien. Bra. Malé.